episode 18. We're moving on to my thoughts about living through 2009. And this episode is titled Putting an Action Plan in Place. So, hopefully you're relaxing after a long day. Maybe you've come to ASMR Money Mentor for some money tips. Maybe you are here for the whispers and the ASMR effect. Regardless, I'm so happy that you are here. And before we start today, a heartfelt thank you to all of you that have subscribed to my channel. I appreciate that you are here. So last week we talked about, of course, 2008 and the Great Recession. And this week we're moving on again to 2009. Now remember, 2008, the Great Recession, of course, lasted from 2007 through 2009. Contagion spread around the world. We had, of course, excessive mortgage lending. And never in our country in a long time had we seen such economic devastation. It wasn't since the Great Depression of the 1930s that we had seen such an economic devastation. And of course, last week we talked about how I felt in 2008, and I had no idea that fate would be setting me up for an amazing set of financial years beginning in 2009. As you will recall, I talked about how I was with a company that actually did or does really well during economic downtime, so I felt like I had positioned myself for the greatest opportunity to do great with money. I was strategic in that regard. You guys know I had such terrible times in my 20s and my 30s. I had paid my dues, if you will, with jobs that lasted, 6 months to a year. I would get laid off. I just had such a hard time getting traction in my career. And I knew, of course, in 2009 that we were at the bottom of the market. As I said last time, so many of my friends lost their job, and a lot of people were suffering. So let's move on now, and again I'm calling this episode Putting an Action Plan in Place. So after the recession, of course, the market started to turn around, and this really was the first opportunity where the market was starting to go up. And as I said before, I didn't have much money to lose. I was just beginning in 2005. I learned about the money book, The Young, Fabulous, and Broke, and I was just really getting traction in my career and also in my investing. And to put it into bull market. And some say the bull market may have ended around 2020 during the pandemic. I may have mentioned this before, and I will talk about it in the future when I get to 2020 in terms of sharing my experience with you over the past many years. But some believe that the bull market really did end in 2020. We did have a V-shaped recovery. Some of you may recall that the market went down a little bit in early 2020 as a result of the pandemic, but then it shot right back up. So we're going to have these ebb and flows of volatility in the market. And, again, this bull market did last many, many years. It's undeniable that it was an amazing upward trend for multiple years. Some of you may also know that over the past, couple years, and I recall with my investing over these past couple of years that January 2022, the market started going down. It took all the way to January 2024 to get back to the all-time high of the market. So again, there's always going to be times where the market is going up and down. But moving on and getting back to 2009, this is really where I learned to put into place, and I learned this from Suze Orman, watching the Suze Orman show on a Saturday night on CNBC. This is where I believe I learned, of course I did learn, to put an action plan in place. So, I was in a Chicago airport on a business trip, and I remember my mom's husband sent me an email, and he said, "Evan, did you hear about Suze Orman's action plan?" Because everybody knew that I was really into personal finance, that I had a goal, I had a mission. Even though that I was not making much money, I shared with you guys previously that in 2006 I may have been making about $40,000 to about $120,000 today. So it's not like I was making $300,000 or $400,000 per year. I had a very modest income. And I just knew that if I kept investing that things would be okay. And yes, I did leverage, as you know, the bull market. So we don't know what markets are going to do. But my mom's husband sent me the email about the action plan. And I think that it was at that moment that I really solidified my commitment to make personal finance my number one goal. And that's what I want for you guys as well. If you found a SMR money mentor, my guess is that you also want to make personal finance your number one goal. And that's why I'm very happy and proud that you are here with me during these episodes. So, remember back in 2008 and 2009, we were in a huge credit crunch, like I talked about last week. The stock market, as you know, was in a free fall downward. position myself for the greatest success going forward. Because let's face it, bear markets can come and will come at any time. Maybe we'll have one in a year from now. Maybe you'll still be working. Maybe you won't lose your job. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll have enough insight to have money on the side that if you do lose your job, that will get you through until you do find a job. But it's going to be your job to make sure that you position yourself for success no matter what happens. But back to 2009, I wanted to share with you what I learned about the action plan that I will never forget. I remember Suze Orman said in the action plan that 2009 would be a critical year for money. Now again, to put this into perspective, a 2009 can happen at any time. It may be that we go through another economic downturn, maybe not as bad as 2008, but it can happen. And so I remember in the action plan it said that if you make the right choices, and if you have safeguards put in place, and if you could take the correct actions, and if you could avoid costly mistakes, that many people then would do really great with money. And as I said previously, many people took advantage, and rightfully so, of opportunities that were there to be had. It was also during this time that I knew I had to be protected and prepared to prosper, and that when things would take a turn for the better, and they did, that I would know exactly what to do with my money. And again, I think the big opportunity, or the big lesson, I think, is that we need to leverage opportunities when they come.